Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're bringing another Spore Warden build. This one's slightly different. First of all, thank you all for all the views that it's been getting. I'm very happy to see that people have been watching the build and people are enjoying the video. So that is awesome. So quick thank you to you all for checking that video out. So this one, we are not doing any sort of glitches or anything like that with the buff meister. We are still using the buff meister, but we're using its standard effect, not game-breaking effect. But this one is a Spore Warden Stabomancer build. As you guys can see, we are using from the shadows, I believe. Yep. And I'll dive a little bit into the weapons. First, we'll go into the skill tree a little bit, show what we're trying to do here. So going into the Spore Warden tree. So we're using Bounty of Hunt just slightly for a little bit of cooldown rate. We are using from the shadows, and you know, we don't have it up too much because you know it's got a long cooldown. So this will help us out a little bit. We go into Affinity for a little bit of ability damage. Then Eagle Eye for the gun damage. This one, because it has +3, we're speccing 5 into 5 in this. The gun damage is 32% higher. We went 4 out of 5 in this one because we're already hitting a lot of crits. So, and then our class mod is actually going ahead and giving us 1 extra into Bullseye. Then we have Medicinal Mushroom. This is just for the reviving effect, and then the increased damage on for the companion, I believe. Then we're going into Quiver of Holding, just for the ammo regen plus the mag size, of course. We're going into Windrunner for the increased movement speed, and we'll also see why that's so important. You guys might be able to tell already from the Stabbomancer tree, but we'll dive into that. We are going for Headhunter for the extra gun damage, and Wrath of Nature, which is broken. Well, not really, but it's just a really good skill, right? And it gives increased gun damage when we deal ability damage. And then, last but not least, we are going into play the angles for the extra ricochets and the reduced ability damage to surrounding enemies. So this weapon really quick, or this build really quick, you could theoretically also use Barrage, so it's not limited to from the shadows. So don't feel that you can't use Barrage from this on this build. But anyway, going right into the Stabbomancer tree, Arsenal will give us extra 15% gun damage, which is good. We're going into Haste. This will give us more movement speed on top of Windrunner. Then we're going into Swift Death. Swift Death is going to give us extra damage the faster we move. So we're trying to zoom around a little bit with this build, and this will help deal more damage because of that. Then we have Exploit Their Weaknesses. We have a few different elements that we are going to do. So this will be increased gun damage and a 6% increased gun damage per unique status effect. This primarily is for the frost damage. Well, this build primarily focuses on frost damage and the what is it called? The dark damage, right? So because it's frost damage, dark damage, we're already getting 2 status effects. We have another thing that we'll show that might give us 3. So that'll be an extra 6% for that. Then we have Elusive. Now you can sprint and shoot. This is going to help because then we can sprint and deal damage. So while we're sprinting, we're going to do increased damage because of the Swift Death skill. And because we can move super fast, we're going to do even more damage. And then last but not least, for this tree, we have Sneak Attack. This is just going to do increased critical hit damage. So that's what we have here. Let's go into some of the gear we're using. So we're using the Goblin Pickaxe. This is going to help get our action skill back. I do not have the... there is one skill that I do wish I had on this pickaxe, which was the secondary skill that gives you cooldown rate for each melee attack. Unfortunately, I do not have that, but this will still help that you can go ahead and hit some enemies, melee some enemies, and then get reduced action skill cooldown. So this will help with that. Our main weapons are Cryo, so we see we have the liquid cooling. I know a lot of people have been using this in their builds, but there's a reason it's very strong, but we also have a few other options. So if you are not keen on using this or don't have it, don't worry, there are other weapons as well. So on this we have on spell cast, increase frost damage, by 30%. And remember, the enchants can be very varied, and they don't have to be specific. I do prefer the on action skill active for this because that is a little busted and it stays for 60 seconds, I believe. But we have that on the pickaxe, so it'll give us the increased frost damage. Moving on, we have the Nightshade. This is going to do on spellcast increase dark magic damage. We're always dealing dark magic damage. We'll go into that a little bit. So this is going to help out with that. Then we have the Fragment Rain. I haven't been seeing this in too many other builds, but it's actually a very solid weapon. I have a chaotic version, but this weapon also comes with a few variants that actually you can get a Hydra, so that's even better. But unfortunately, I have a chaotic one that doesn't have that, so I'm just sticking with this one for now. And the enchant on this is on spellcast, increase frost damage for 30% for 5 seconds. This is mainly a mobbing weapon, or if you can get sort of some of the mobs around a boss and deal damage to the mobs, then you can do increased damage to the boss itself. It's weird, like the enemy you're shooting at does not get the blunt of the damage, but it's from the ricochet, so this weapon is great for ricocheting. And then last but not least, we don't use this too much, but the live wire, it's kind of standard. And this one has on spellcast, increased lightning damage for 30% for 5 seconds. Going into our other gear, we have 2 rings, primarily focusing on gun damage. That's the primary thing we want. So this one has gun damage and SMG critical hit damage. That's what we're looking for. We don't really care about spell critical hit damage because we're using the Buffmeister. And then this also has the effect that while health is above 50%, effects are increased by 25%. And will also, now this is not absolutely necessary, but this does help for us, especially because of something we'll see. Well, mainly the dark damage, right? The dark damage that we'll be dealing will sort of keep us above 50% health for most of the time. And then the other one, we have a champion ring. This basically you're looking for gun damage. This one has the plus side of having dark magic efficiency, and the passive on it is also dealing damage to a boss, increases effects by 100% for a moderate amount of time. So that is also pretty helpful, but again, what you're mainly looking for is the gun damage. Now moving on to shields, we're using the Bad Egg. This is so that when our ward is depleted, we'll have more movement speed. Melee damage doesn't matter too much, but we'll also have 35% bonus dark magic damage, which is also pretty helpful. And the enchant on this is on spellcast, increase damage dealt by 15% for 10 seconds. So that's pretty useful as well. Moving on. Now this is a key thing. I know that a lot of the builds I've been seeing do not sort of tell you too much about how to gain your health back. So this is a key thing that we can use, the Corrupted Plate Mail. This is going to convert 30% of the Fate Maker's damage dealt to dark magic damage, and dark magic efficiency is also increased by 30%. This is going to be a key thing for survival. Luckily, I recently got one with Spore Warden power and Stabomancer power, so that's always good. The other 3 sort of abilities or passives that it gives, we don't really care too much. Yeah, they're not the best. I wish I had gun damage or something like that, but that's okay. We'll keep area damage and ability damage. They're good enough. But the main thing we're looking for is the ability for the class mod itself. So that's going to keep us surviving a lot. There are other options as well. You can go ahead and use the Smart Armor if you are doing a boss battle. This is going to increase your damage a ton because if you're using From the Shadows, you'll always hit criticals hits, and because of that, you'll also be doing a bunch more critical hit damage because it's increased by 50%. So this is always a good option. Unfortunately, I do not have one with Spore Warden and Stabomancer power, but this is the one I would opt for in my scenario. But if you do have a good one, that's also a very good option, especially for boss killing. Now, you can also use this if you have a Dark Magic Buffmeister, because when you activate the Buffmeister, then you'll also be doing dark magic damage, and that can help you with healing. But personally, I just prefer keeping this, and sometimes I'll swap this out. Now, actually we have to go into our Amulet. So this one, again, primary thing we're looking at here is just having gun damage, and then either Stabomancer power or Spore Warden power. Luckily, this one has plus 20 to percent to gun magazine size and plus 10 to fire rate, so that's also good. We don't really care about the passive ability of this amulet because we're not really meleeing, but I'm sure there's others that you can use. This one is just, again, gun damage is the big thing here. And then, last but not least, we have a buff meister. We can also use a fire buff meister. That's one we also have and sometimes swap over to. This will give us another element that we'll be dealing. That'll give us extra 6% damage, and so that's another option. But I would recommend that if you are using the fire one, then at least keep this class mod and not the smart shield, or the smart armor. That way you can at least get some sort of healing from this. I just keep both. It does a ton of healing, and I mean I do still go down, but I don't have any troubles with getting back up. So yeah, that's pretty much the build. I'll show a little bit of the damage that it does, some of the boss killing, and as well as some of the mobbing. So again, I'll use this a little bit to show the mobbing, just in case if you guys don't have the liquid cooling. This is what we'll be using for bosses as well as the Nightshade. These two are my boss weapons, but they're also very good for just killing mobs in general, especially because you'll be hitting crits so much. The passive for the liquid cooling is that it will it'll not overheat when you are dealing crits. So we can sort of keep firing this like an infinity. Unfortunately, we do have an ammo count that's still being used up. So, but luckily with our ammo regeneration, we can negate that a little bit. Anyway, now I'll hop right into the boss killing and the mobbing. Alright guys, here we are. We're going to go ahead and kill Parasite real quick, and I'll show you the damage that we're doing to this guy. So we'll land here, we'll pop our From the Shadows, our Buffmeister, and we'll get killing. So you'll see that I'm always moving around, that way we can deal more damage. And then I'll show a little bit of what this can do here. As you can see, it does a ton of damage when you're actually shooting at other things. But we'll switch back now. And we'll show a little bit of the liquid cooling as well. This, you can basically keep firing while you have From the Shadows. And even when you don't have From the Shadows, you can literally just keep firing this thing. Now I should be moving a little bit, but that'll just do more damage. And there we go. So technically the liquid cooling is the best option, but if you don't have that, you can still always use the Nightshade. That's always a good weapon. You'll just have to reload a ton just because bosses have a lot of health. So yeah, now I'll go into one of the Chaos Chambers. I'll show one of the rooms there and just show you guys the damage that we're doing there. Alright guys, so here we are. We're going to do a little bit of mobbing. And let's see if we can go ahead and show a little bit of this weapon off. So you saw this other guy literally died instantly. So basically you want to do more damage to the weaker enemies, and the stronger enemies will follow suit. So what we'll do is we'll pop this quartz really quick, and we'll do damage to the other guys. Hopefully we can kill this boss. And there we go. We killed the badass as well. And yeah, so the I almost died there. The fragment rain can actually do a ton of damage. Just don't prioritize on the strong enemies. Prioritize on weaker enemies, and the strong enemies will die instantly. They actually melt really quick. So, sorry guys. Didn't want to give any spoilers if you haven't finished the game. So, stop the video for a second. But no, in general, if you are doing Chaos Chambers or are in mobbing scenarios, try to use this weapon. focus on weaker enemies because, yeah, it'll just do the ricochets just do crazy damage. So yeah, give this weapon a try because I haven't seen a lot of people using it, and I think it's very underrated. So the name of the weapon is Fragment Rain. Go ahead and give it a try. I'm sure you've seen it in your Chaos Chambers or if you're farming bosses. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys like this video. The damage on this build is definitely not going to be as high as what it was with the other build, but that's just because of the broken buff meister. This one doesn't really utilize that, so we're doing a good amount of damage, and this is not game breaking at all. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, there's a lot of different things that you could do to make this build better. So if you have a better amulet that'll help you with damage, go ahead and use that. I just chose it because it has gun damage, and luckily it has fire rate as well. But again, it's very flexible. You can go ahead and do things that'll give you a lot more cooldown. Like for example, I don't have the cooldown reduction on this with the second ability, but if you have that on your goblin pickaxe, you can basically get your action skill back way faster. Anyway guys, thanks for watching again. If you liked the video, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave any comments below on what other builds you want to see. I'm trying to work on a Graveborn right now so that I can start making builds for that as well. So be on the lookout. Hopefully those will be coming soon as well. But again, thank you guys, and peace.